Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com and today I'm here with a card for Cat Scrappiness. I am on the Cat Scrappiness design team and so I will be sharing some of the new Valentine release products with you. First up is the I Love You Shadow Die set and the Say It with Hearts stamp set. Those are the two main things I'll be using, but I have a few other supplies I'll introduce throughout the video. To get started, I cut the shadow part of the I Love You die from some vellum, and I already had adhesive on the back of the vellum. Then I knew I was going to use a heart later on, so I took the scraps from cutting out the heart and I'm going to color them with a few different colors of Distress Oxide ink to create the sort of forward part of the I love you sentiment. So there'll be the shadows and vellum and then colored pieces layered on top. I really like the I Love You Shadow Die set because of the mixture of fonts. The love is scripty and then the I and U are in a printed font. For the Distress Oxide inks, I am using Shaded Lilac, Tattered Rose, and Cracked Pistachio. First, I start by swiping my ink pad across the white cardstock just to lay down a fair amount of ink. Then I use my blending tool to complete all of the color on the background, like to cover all of the white. I find that this is quicker than if I were to use only the blending tool and try to bring over enough ink just with the blending tool. So, just a quick tip if you're trying to create your own custom colors. I could, of course, just use colored cardstock to cut these out, and if you had a bunch of coordinating colors that you like, that would be awesome, but I'm going to eventually use some stamping as well from the Say It with Heart stamp set, and so I just wanted everything to coordinate perfectly. Plus, I don't keep a lot of colors of cardstock on hand, so matching up something with my inks would be a little bit trickier for me. I took the heart, which was cut with the fancy stitched scallop heart die, I want to say. I don't know, it'll be linked in the video description. It's also from Cat Scrappiness. I believe it was released last year, and I think that I use a ton of Cat's shaped dies all year long. I use the hearts, of course, more at Valentine's Day, but I just find her basic shape sets to be useful really often and find myself reaching for them a lot. I'm going to stamp some of the solid hearts with my Distress Oxide ink. What's nice about Distress Oxide ink is that it does stamp fairly well, and I am using a stamp block even though I'm going to have to stamp down twice. But I knew that with this simple shape, it wouldn't be too hard to line up. I would probably use a stamp positioning tool if I were trying to double stamp a sentiment, but for the heart, I wasn't too worried about it. I stamped that with the Shaded Lilac, then I'm going to stamp one of the sentiments with the Cracked Pistachio. I started with You Are Great, but there are a lot of sentiments in the set, and the general idea is to make your own sort of conversation hearts, like those candy hearts, and I think that these particular Distress Oxide inks would work well for that purpose. They are also opaque and pigment based, so I think that they would layer on top of each other, and that would be another way of doing this. But here I just wanted to spread some color throughout my card. So next up I stamped the I Miss You sentiment, and then I'm going to pick one final sentiment, the XOXO, for the purple. And that was mostly because I just felt like with the larger sentiments, I wasn't able to fill in all of the spaces in a sort of random create your own pattern paper sort of way. So I wanted to bring in that smaller sentiment, and it does make the purple a little bit more dominant, but that's okay because that's also the color that I chose for my love sentiment, which is going to be sort of the highlight of my card eventually. I decided to dry this a little bit with my heat gun. As mentioned, the Oxide inks do have a pigment base or part of it, and so they don't dry quite as quickly, but they're fairly fast drying. As mentioned before, I already put adhesive on the back of my vellum before I die cut it, which made it really easy to stick these down, and I didn't have to fuss with any glue or worry about the adhesive showing through the vellum, which is often a challenge with vellum. I did use, I believe, stick-it adhesive to cover the back, but any large sheet adhesive works pretty well for that purpose. So I was going for a clean and simple-ish card, and I thought about layering on the white, but it just felt too simple for me. So I took a different piece of the same white cardstock. I use Recollections cardstock from Michaels. There's a lot of great cardstocks on the market though. And I covered it with the Tattered Rose Distress Oxide ink, and then I spritzed a bit of shimmer spray over it. You can't really see that in the pictures or the video, but it adds a nice touch in real life, and I knew that I was going to want to add a bit of that's Pico embellisher from Sukaneko, I want to say. I don't know. Oh, no, Imagine Crafts. Irresistible Pico embellisher, which is like glossy accents with glitter inside of it. So glossy accents will work pretty similar, but there's just a touch of glitter inside of the Pico embellisher. And I knew I was going to use that to cover the sentiment to make it stand out a bit more. So I figured if there's going to already be a little bit of glitter on the card, why not add some to the back? So I will position my heart mostly on top of the pink paper, but I'm going to let a little bit of it overhang on the side, and that always adds a bit of interest if things aren't perfectly lined up. It's the same reason I didn't stamp the hearts on the background in such a way that you could see the entire heart. I kind of created this sense of movement by having them come off the edge a little bit in all three places, and you want to probably do the same thing with your sentiment. You don't want to stamp them all perfectly legible. You want them to hang off the edges of your heart. So here I am adding the aforementioned Pico embellisher. You do want to be careful, as you can get the air bubbles a lot when you first start, because you have to roll it between your hands to distribute the glitter. You don't want to shake it because that'll create even more air bubbles, but you do want to distribute the glitter. So rolling it between your hands is my recommendation, and maybe using it on your craft sheet or scrap paper a little bit first rather than going right to your project so that you can avoid some of those initial air bubbles. Then it helps to go slow. I've sped the video up here quite a bit because it's just a repetitive process, but when I am sort of real time, it is much slower just so that I get less air bubbles and I'm able to cover the letters a little bit better. This will change the color of the Distress Oxide inks slightly, as they do react with water and moisture, and that's essentially what the Pico embellisher is adding there, but I still like the look in the end. Then to finish off my card, here's my new favorite way to finish off a card, and it's not too complicated, and I do it often the very same way. I took some cat Scrappiness jewels, in this case the Lilac Jewels, and then I'm going to put them in a sort of visual triangle around the main focal point of my card, which in this case is the sentiment. So I will also put them in pairs, like one large and one small. I just find that pleasing. It does make for an even number overall, and I know you probably heard a lot of times you should use an odd number of embellishments, but it's an odd set of groupings, like there's 3 groupings of it. So I don't know, it's just kind of what floats my boat, but whatever you like to do, I think that the jewels are an excellent finishing touch to a card. And see here, I realized that. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like the 2. So I went back and added another one, so you could do that too. And then that would make it 9 and an odd number, but I know on another card recently I kept it even and didn't stress out about that so much. So whichever way you like it. I also recommend mixing them up. So I probably could have added some of the pretty pink colored jewels as well, or some green colored ones, and that would be fun too. So that's it for my card today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel. There will be links in the video description to the products, as well as a coupon code for you so that you can pick up some of the new Cat Scrappiness products and get started on your Valentine's crafting. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye.